All right, so I got asked a question about old students, and it implemented something that we haven't done often in our club, but then we did recently this week, which is we contacted back some old students. Now, first of all, before we even start, my ethical stance on all things is as long as in your club you're doing things to the long-term benefit of your student, if that dictates all of your decisions, then you're always making a good decision. So whether that's recommending that they go into a tournament or recommending they don't go into a tournament, as long as it's to the long-term benefit of the student, I think it's the right thing to do. And if you can always state that was at the cornerstone of your decision making, you're going to make good decisions. So back to the story at hand, we decided to contact back one of our old students. Now, first of all, I always prefer training with old students more so than new students. One is the culture. So every time somebody enters the environment, they do affect the culture. So retaining an old student is great, but sometimes people leave, and it could be for any reason, but when they return, they'll typically bring back the same culture that they left with, okay? Which is, in my opinion, one of the best parts. So we really want to maintain our culture. Whatever the culture is that you've developed, if you're happy with it and you've fostered it and encouraged it, then maintaining it's really critical. And each club has its own culture. But an old student will bring that back rather than a new student. Second is cost. So we can't get away from the cost. Bringing a new student into your club takes a lot of marketing and advertising and all those sorts of things. They're just part of the general requirement for running a martial arts club. So I've got to do my advertising, then I've got to take phone calls, and then I might take an hour with somebody. Just in that, if I add all the time to bring them into the club together, that might take me a full hour. And that's an hour that's taken away from my current students. So it's an hour of my time, but it's an hour where I cannot spend it elsewhere for the benefit of my students. If I call somebody or somebody contacts me and says, "Can I come back?" that is literally a 3-minute conversation, which ends in, "Yes, for sure, we'd love to have you back." Which is return investment of time is extremely a lot better. So the cost and the time cost of a new student versus the time cost of a returning student wins every single time. The next aspect is their know-how. When they come in, they already know how to do certain skills. So you've immediately got good skills coming back into your club that you don't need to develop that first primary skill set. And the last thing is you want to like people. I'm very lucky. This is the environment where if you're in a martial arts club, the relationships you're going to have in this building are tighter and closer to a lot of the relationships you'll have elsewhere. In terms of physical contact, probably if you're not doing martial arts, you can probably name 5 people maximum that you go into close physical contact with. If you're in a martial arts club, the 10 to 20 to 30 people that you regularly train with, join that group of 5. So you've got to add up how many people you have a relationship with, close physically touching somebody relationship with is, well, if you're going to accept a new person into that very small circle, for the average person it's 5 people or less. If you're going to accept someone into that, you've got to kind of like the person. You've got to want to be helping them helping you, and training with and working with that person. So you've already vetted that process when you've got a returning student. When somebody new comes, I'll be honest, there are people that I do not want to train in my club, for whatever that reason is. And every instructor in the world, every club owner, every participant in martial arts has that same feeling for certain reasons, whatever it might be. Hopefully they're not prejudice reasons, and they're legitimate reasons. But there's people I don't want to train with. Well, when somebody calls me for the first time, I don't know initially where I'm going to be with that. So when somebody comes into here and we accept them, we're actually accepting them into our close physical contact relationship. So when we're returning an old student, well, I've already vetted that process. I already know that I want to train with that person. I like them enough. So that ticks that box. So in my opinion, returning students by far outweigh new students every single time. all the time. If you are a student that hasn't trained with me for a while, I'd love to see you back. But if you're a club owner and you're looking at growing your club, I would strongly consider contacting back some of your previous students that used to train with you. It is a great process to do. And old students, if you had a good relationship with them, they're often just happy to say hello and have a chat. Even if they're not wanting to train again, it's often really pleasant conversation to say, hey, how are you? Where are you at in your life? All right, that's the message today from Connect Martial Arts. I'll see you on the mat soon. Master Train.